Those who don't know who I am, my name is Joey. For those who do know who I am, my name is still Joey. Kind of like how I've started to make that my kind of intro kind of thing. I find it funny. If you haven't been to the channel yet, I am doing a chapter a day in the Bible uh, for Bible study. More so on here for public accountability for me, so that I actually continue to do this, so that I actually study the Bible and understand God more and and also to reach out to others to give people the opportunity to also study the Bible along with me. Um, Now, I haven't said this at all, but the Bible I read is English Standard Version, so it sounds a little different than what most people read it of uh, compared to other people's versions. Other people listen to different kind of versions or even read to different versions, so some words here are different than others, but I promise you it's still the same Bible. So the last few days we've been reading through Romans. Today we're going to read through Romans chapter 4. I apologize, yesterday's video was a little quick and the summaries weren't exactly the best, but we're just going to keep moving because that's kind of what I'm trying to work on, is become a better summarizer, better studier, so that I could understand the Bible a little more, as well as try to get it across to other people better. I guess also I'm not perfect. Last 2 days I've been dying, so I finally filled up my water bottle. Anyways, I'm not perfect. My understanding, my perspective on the Bible can be a little different from others. So if there's something that you disagree on, or something that you want to bring up to my perspective or bring up to me, feel free to let me know. I'm going to put in the description my socials so that you could reach out to me so that we could have a conversation. But anyways, so that this video doesn't take too long, as well as doesn't take so much storage on my phone for I have to delete every video I make whenever I upload it completely onto YouTube. Let's get started. Romans chapter 4. Abraham justified by faith. What then shall we say was gained by Abraham, our forefather according to the flesh? For if Abraham was justified by works, he has something to boast about, but not before God. For what does the scripture say? Abraham believed God, and it was counted to him as righteousness. Now to the one who works, his wages are not counted as a gift, but as his due. And to the one who does not work, but believes in him who justifies the ungodly, his faith is counted as righteousness. Just as David also speaks of the blessing of the one to whom God counts righteousness apart from works. Blessed are those whose lawless deeds are forgiven, and whose sins are covered. Blessed is the man against whom the Lord will not count his sin. Is this blessing then only for the circumcised, or also for the uncircumcised? For we say that faith was counted to Abraham as righteousness. How then was it counted to him? Was it before or after he had been circumcised? It was not after, but before he was circumcised. He received the sign of circumcision as a seal of the righteousness that he had by faith while he was still uncircumcised. The purpose was to make him the father of all who believe without being circumcised, so that righteousness would be counted to them as well, and to make him the father of the circumcised, who are not merely circumcised, but who also walk in the footsteps of the faith that our father Abraham had before he was circumcised. So, a little bit of summary, a little bit of background on Abraham. Abraham is a man in the book of Genesis that Genesis goes into quite a bit. Abraham was an old man who was married to Sarah, I believe. I think it was Sarah. She was not. She was barren. She wasn't able to have children. And one day, God comes to Abraham and speaks to him, telling him he's going to have a child, he's this, that, and All he has to do is believe and just do what he says, do what God says. And Abraham believes, like it says earlier in Romans chapter 4, verse 3. Abraham believed God, and it was counted to him as righteousness. He believed God and did what God said, and which turned into the way we know Abraham. He is Abraham. Abram was his original name, and God then gave him the name Abraham. Abraham then became the father of Israelites because then God gave Sarah a child, and they were able to make the Israelite family from there. Anyways, he was not circumcised. He was uncircumcised, which back then you had to be circumcised to be considered a follower of God or of some sorts like that. I don't have a lot of research into that, but I believe that's what I read in Genesis when I read this like maybe half a year ago. And with him not being circumcised, questions, as Paul questions like half the time while reading this about the ones who are uncircumcised, should they be circumcised? And if they aren't, like, what's up with that? And Paul kind of, in the last few chapters of Romans, brings up circumcision and talks about how through faith of God, that's all that's needed. You don't have to be circumcised. You could be uncircumcised and have the faith of God, and that would be righteous to God. And just following the path of God in that way. So he says that Father Abraham was, he is the father of the circumcised, who are not merely circumcised, but who also walk in the footsteps of the faith that our father Abraham had before he was circumcised. He is the father of the circumcised who are not circumcised yet. So, kind of big thing for Father Abraham there. Yeah. Feel like I kind of went on a ramble there, but just gonna finish underlining this bit here for my own sake. Alright, moving on. The next half of Romans chapter 4. Romans chapter 4 isn't that long, actually, compared to the last few chapters we've read. The promise realized through faith. Romans chapter 4, verse 13. For the promise to Abraham and his offspring that he would be heir of the world did not come through the law, but through the righteousness of faith. Here's what I was saying about Abraham not having a child or having kids, and then God giving him a promise to have offspring, and then becoming the father of the Israelites. The Israelites being the, as back then called, the Christians. That's why we talk about Israel a lot nowadays. The founding country of Christianity. Anyways, moving on. For if it is the adherents of the law who are to be the heirs, faith is null and the promise is void. For the law brings wrath, but there is no law, there is no transgression. This is merely saying that there was no law put into this. This is all God saying this. There's no actual physical law to this, and the reason of it was because if there was law, faith would be nowhere to be seen, promise would be nothing but void, as said in the ending of verse 14 in Romans chapter 4. Romans chapter 4, verse 16. That is why it depends on faith, in order that the promise may rest on grace and be guaranteed to all his offspring, not only to the adherent of the law, but also to the one who shares the faith of Abraham, who is the father of us all. As it is written, I have made you the father of many nations. Underlining that real quick. In the presence of the God in whom he believed,